Hey everyone, have you ever felt, a little disconnected from your roots? Or maybe wondered how a whole community can heal after its culture has been fractured? Well, today we're diving into a really powerful idea that tackles that exact problem, identity restoration theory. Think of it as a blueprint for how we can rebuild our sense of who we are when it feels like it's been lost. Let's get into it.
So, let's just start with this huge question. What actually happens when a community's bond with its own identity gets cut? Really think about that. Imagine losing your language, your stories, or the land your ancestors lived on. What is the real, human cost of that kind of deep disruption?
Okay, here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to define what a lost identity really is. Then we'll introduce the theory itself and its 5 core pillars. After that, we'll see how it applies to the Raizal people, and finally, we'll talk about what it means to restore a dignified future. Let's begin.
So first up, what does it even mean to have a lost identity? For many communities, like the Raizal people, identity isn't just some personal thing. It's more like this big collective tapestry that's woven from a shared history, a connection to the land, their language, and their spiritual beliefs.
So when those threads get pulled or even cut, the impact it's just massive. It goes way beyond just losing a bit of culture. It shakes a community's entire sense of belonging, their collective search for meaning, and it can even cloud their vision for their own future, for the next generation.
So, how does a community even start to heal from that kind of deep disconnection? This is where we get to the heart of what we're talking about today, a really powerful theory of restoration.
And this brilliant framework was developed by Dr. Castell Britton. His work, the identity restoration theory, gives us a clear, systematic process. It really explains how individuals and even entire communities can start to piece their sense of self back together after it's been fragmented.
Now, what makes this theory so powerful is its structure. It's not just some vague idea. It's a dynamic process that's built on 5 core, totally interconnected pillars. This is the blueprint for how you actually do the work of restoration.
And here they are. You've got cultural memory, place reconnection, narrative repair, communal belonging, and agency activation. Now, you should think of these as essential, interlocking building blocks. You kind of need all of them. So let's break each one down.
All right, first up is cultural memory. This pillar is all about forging a deep, living connection with your heritage, the traditions, the language, the history that makes a people who they are. For the Raizal, for instance, this memory is alive in their oral stories, in their music, and in their shared day-to-day experiences.
And here's the key insight, right? It's an active process. It's not enough to just passively remember the past. That heritage has to be valued, and this is crucial, it has to be passed on. That is how you keep a cultural memory from fading away.
Okay, building right on top of that is our second pillar, place reconnection. This is this powerful idea that our identity it's inseparable from the land we come from. It's about recognizing how our ancestral spaces literally, physically shape who we are. I absolutely love this quote because it just gets to the heart of it. A territory isn't just dirt and trees. For a community like the Raizal, their islands are a part of their identity itself. The land holds this symbolic and emotional weight that goes so far beyond just its physical boundaries. Our third pillar is narrative repair, and this one recognizes the immense power of storytelling. A huge part of restoring identity is a community's ability to take back the microphone, to untangle its own history, and to tell its own story in its own voice.
See, when other people are defining your community, that story can feel broken or incomplete. But when you take back control of that narrative, it allows a community to reinterpret its own past, to find meaning in its present, and to define itself with dignity, looking toward the future.
Pillar number 4, communal belonging, reminds us of something we probably all feel intuitively. Identity is never built in a vacuum. Our sense of self, it just thrives within our relationships. It's strengthened by family, by community, and by the shared values that tie people together.
So the crucial point here is this really powerful contrast. Without that sense of community, of belonging, identity struggles. It weakens. But with it, with belonging, identity becomes strong. It becomes resilient, and it's able to handle whatever challenges come its way.
And that brings us to the final, and maybe the most empowering pillar of them all, agency activation. This is all about a community's ability to take the helm, to make its own decisions, to act with purpose, and to actively, intentionally steer its own future. And this is just so key. This whole theory isn't just about looking backwards.
Agency is what allows a community to take all those other pillars, memory, place, narrative, and belonging, and actually use them to lead their own development and protect their culture from this day forward.
Okay, so we've got this powerful 5-pillar framework. It sounds great in theory, right? But what does it actually look like in the real world? Let's take a look at why this theory is so incredibly vital for the Raizal people.
You know, this isn't just some academic exercise. It's a real-world toolkit. For example, it can completely reshape education, making sure that young people learn their own history in their own language, not just some standardized curriculum. It can guide development projects so that they're led by the community for the community. That strengthens their agency. And ultimately, it's a way to empower future generations to not just understand their identity, but to actively protect it.
And this brings us to our final and, maybe our most important idea. This theory doesn't just ask us to understand something new. It actually asks us to do something.
Right. Understanding these pillars isn't a passive thing. It invites us to think for sure, but it also demands responsibility. It's really a call to action for everyone, for communities themselves, for educators, for leaders, for families, to become active partners in the work of restoring identity. It truly has to be a shared effort.
And we'll just end on this really powerful thought. The future of any community is tied directly to the strength of its identity. And as we've seen today, that strength comes from a conscious, deliberate process of restoration, of living that culture out loud every single day, and of actively protecting it for all the generations to come.